Think we're live.
What's up, family?
Hey guys.
Welcome to Netflix and Chill. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us tonight. When you come on in the room, let us know that you're here by putting your name on the screen.
See Naqueva's on. Hey Naqueva.
Nice. I have the privilege of hanging out tonight with you all and Lady Bland.
Ain't you lucky?
I feel super lucky. Can't you tell?
Not really.
Okay. Well, I'm doing the best I can. Um, I um, I want you all to kind of share this broadcast. We're going to be looking at a movie tonight. Well, we've already looked at the movie, but we're going to be talking about a movie tonight that honestly I thought was really cool. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but it actually was a pretty cool movie.
All right. Hi Tanya. Hi Reverend Joanne. Who else is on? Hey Elder Green. Hey Twin. Hey Lachelle. So we'll wait for a few more people and then we'll start to talk about the movie. I'm glad that you thought it was pretty good though.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was pretty cool. You all give
Yeah.
me 1 second. So we're doing some technical stuff too, and so I just want to adjust some volume. So give me 1 second. All right. If you all can hear us and hear us well, give us a thumbs up. If you can hear us and hear us well, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you can see us, that you can hear us. Uh, hey, Reverend Joanne, Tanya, I see you. Aaron, I see my mom on here. Share the broadcast. Let everybody know that we're on. We got a lot to talk about. God is not dead. Amy's on. Stephanie is
Hey
on.
Amy.
Welcome, y'all. Welcome.
Reverend
Thank you
Joanne
all.
gave us the thumbs up, so I guess you guys could hear us and see us well. We're trying to get it right for you guys. Each week it's kind of a learning process. I'm not an expert as overseer and be doing this thing on the regular. So when I get on, it changes things a little bit. So we want to make sure it's good for you guys.
Nice. We're working out. Well, she's doing a great job adjusting. And I don't know. Maybe we'll have to get her on live stream. Maybe we can get her to preach
Oh, bless you.
since since since,
Bless
she,
you.
since you're getting
Bless you.
comfortable.
I didn't say that.
Maybe we can
Mm-mm.
get you
Mm.
to share a message with us
Bless you.
uh,
Jesus
one
wept.
one
Amen.
Sunday or one Friday or something like that.
Jesus wept.
Um,
Amen.
why not?
Jesus wept. Amen.
I
I
mean
just gave you my sermon.
we need a little bit more than that. We need a couple points. We need a close, um, like a hoop or something like that.
And no.
All right. Um,
Who else is on? Kyra. Hey, Kyra.
Elder Green is on.
Hey, Yolanda.
Welcome, family. All right. So, what have y'all been up to this week? So, this has kind of been a really interesting time where, if your days are like mine, sometimes it just seems like every day is very similar. In the fact that it just seems like you wake up, you zoom, or some of you wake up and you go to work and come home. But what have your days been like so far? Like, how are you all doing with this? Are you all enjoying your time at home? Talk to us in the comments real quick before we go to the movie. How are you all time at home? What is that like? Are you about to kill your spouse? What is that like?
Sir,
I
that's how
mean,
you feel?
I didn't say I feel that way, but it
But
could
why they
be.
had to be your
I mean,
example?
that's just I was actually, you interrupted me. I was going to give a
Okay.
second example.
Okay.
Um, so,
All right.
yeah, so
They still say, I think Nicole said you sound far away as well. Elder Green, we're not doing this tonight. Tanya, neither. Grace and peace to you both. Surround you with many blessings. Bless you, Rodney. Thank you.
let's check it now. I think that's probably really loud.
Can y'all hear him better now?
My microphone wasn't on.
Oh, bless you.
I told you it's been a long week. Okay,
Oh,
one
that's
second. Let
so
me
good.
let me let me just adjust it. Let me just adjust it. Let me just adjust it.
Kyra said too many
Testing
meetings,
one,
not
two,
enough
two.
naps.
Testing one, two. All right, that looks like that's probably good.
Laqueva said excellent. I don't know if she meant her week or your volume.
Okay.
We good?
That looks like that's probably better. Yeah, I'm sorry, my microphone wasn't on. It well,
Okay.
let's start there. That tells you the kind of week that it's been. I feel as though I'm working more being home than I am kind of like, not being
Regular.
home. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like literally I feel like I'm on a call, conference call, Zoom call, phone call, whatever. It's a lot.
Well, I think within your position, it requires more because not only are you doing your regular job, which looks a lot different now, we're trying to do it remotely, but the needs of our church family has increased, our personal family, so you're getting more calls, more text messages, and things like that. So I could definitely see how it's more for you to balance and to juggle. So I hear you.
Yeah, simply put, I think I'm a little bit over it, just a little bit. We're
Over
we're
it?
yeah, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like over it,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm like a 9.9.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like over it. Where are you at?
I'm a 1.5. I'm
Really?
good.
Really?
I'm good. I always look forward to being home, so I usually don't get that opportunity. So I'm enjoying my time home. I'm good. Some days are more with doing a lot of back-to-back meetings and stuff, but I'm good.
So then let's just switch then. Let's
So what you want to
let's
switch? You want me to?
you go preach, you go, and
I already preached for you.
I'll
We could just record that and keep saying it.
I'm gonna
Kyra
do
said that could preach.
I'm gonna do what you do. See, Yolanda feels the
see.
same way. I know I'm not the only person. I'm grateful that everyone is safe. I'm grateful that we're healthy. I'm grateful that, that there's no sad story, no bad news. But just truth be told, I'm just ready to get back with life. And it seems like there's some people in here too,
Yeah.
that feel
Kyra
the
says she's
same
about
way.
to take a vacation. Like, I don't understand y'all. Like, I have staff who's been calling out. Like, how you call out and you working from home? Like, stop it.
But you know what?
Just stop.
But you know what? See, here's the other part too. I think if I could just do phone calls and not do Zoom calls, it would be different. But the fact
Okay.
that you have to like be on, like you got to get dressed, you got to have like an on face, like you could. I mean, if it's just a phone, you could do that from your bed, right? Which is what you do.
Not always. Don't you do that.
80% of the
Don't you?
time.
Not
I mean, but
maybe.
you're
Stop
able
it.
to do that from your bed,
Stop it.
right?
I don't have to turn my camera on all the time.
But I mean, but that's a lot. So, yeah, I think
See,
Charlinda
Charlinda
said
she call out. You would, Charlinda.
I mean, but
We
she
don't
she
just pray
just she
for
calls
her.
out regardless.
We just don't
So,
pray for her.
please, Lord, touch her. Elder Green said that you're going to bring the word on Sunday. So yes,
Bless
so
you.
so you all,
Bless you.
just wait for Sunday morning because we may have a surprise for you. Evangelist
amp, though.
Evangelist Bland will be bringing forth the word of.
I'm First Lady Bland, and I'm quite okay there. That's it.
Listen, the people want to hear you preach. The people want to hear you. Matter of fact, you know what? You want to preach right now?
No, I just did.
Okay, let me tell
No,
y'all.
no, don't you?
Okay, wait.
Sir,
Let me.
we not doing
we
this
got
tonight.
get. No. I'm just saying.
We talking about what's the movie?
No,
God's Not Dead. That's what we got.
we're gonna go to God's Not Dead. But I want to tell the people something real quick.
No.
No. Wait. You don't even know what I'm gonna say.
Because
just
I
be
could already
patient.
feel your spirit.
You don't know what I'm
I
gonna
feel
say.
your spirit.
The only spirit I got is the Holy Spirit. Okay,
All
listen,
right.
check this out. So this week I was so kind of just bored, like just wanted to do something that I downloaded C-Dub's Hoop Triggers. And for those of you out here who don't know what Hoop Triggers are,
I
Hoop
don't know what
Triggers
that
is an application that allows you to basically have church all by yourself. With one app, you can back yourself up while you're preaching.
Okay.
You can play songs while you whatever. And so I just so happen to have a band with me tonight. So if you wanna share a word of the Lord, I can hook you up.
You're just off. Your spirit's off.
No,
sir.
listen, look, watch this. Wait,
sir.
wait.
You like nonsense.
Wait,
huh?
no. I'm just saying we
Sir.
can. I could just. We can.
Sir.
The people want to hear something. What key you want?
F.
C. Let's put you in C sharp. You sound like you'd be good C sharp. Let's put you in C. Let's see what you can do.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So, how many other people? Anybody else got hoop triggers out there? By the way, it's actually a really cool app. But we could. You ready?
I'm not, because we're not doing this. Sir,
Go ahead.
no. You missed the cue. See? You can't even be my organist. You missed it.
You missed your key. All right. So anyway, let's do what we
It's
actually
off.
came
Thank you,
here.
Kyra.
Let's
I
let's
made
do
Charlene
what let's do what we actually came here to do tonight, and that is to talk about God's Not Dead. Now, we watched a movie this week entitled God's Not Dead.
Yes.
And one of the cool things that I realized about this movie is, I was saying that this was part 2. And I didn't realize that this is actually part 3.
Oh, okay.
And so God's Not Dead is actually a trilogy of movies, which they're looking to add more to their roster. And it's really just about inspiring people to have conversations about faith and showing how people fight for their faith. And I think that as believers, sometimes we do have to fight for what we believe. There's so many people that believe other than Jesus being the way, right? And so and when you go into different places in the world, like sometimes school or wherever, sometimes you have to like defend your faith, right? The scripture says it this way, like talks about contending for the faith. And so their series of movies shows how believers contend or fight for their faith while under pressure. And so the very first God's Not Dead, I actually saw, which was in the movie theater. It did really, really well. And it was about a college student who was, I think, in like a philosophy class, who had an atheist professor. And he was trying to basically prove to the class that God is not dead, that he's still alive. And so kind of similar to the storyline, or a similar storyline that runs parallel to one of the movies that we watched very early on, which is The Case for Christ, which is kind of similar. And so they had a God's Not Dead 2, which I missed that one. It seemed to have not done as well. And then this one is God's Not Dead 3, Light and Darkness.
Okay. So they do different storylines for each one. So it's not a continuation of the same characters. It's different characters, different storyline, with the basis that God's not dead.
Right, for the most part.
Okay.
Now, I did hear that they have started production on a God's Not Dead 4, which will Pastor Dave, who we saw in God's Not Dead 3, will still be, or Reverend Dave rather, will still be the main character in this new one as well. So so we watched God's Not Dead, and honestly, man, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I hadn't watched this movie before I suggested the movie. I saw some of the reviews, and I talked to some people who said that, if you're looking for a good Christian movie to watch with your church, this will be a good one that's on Netflix compared to the ones that are out there. And so, to full disclosure, the first time I saw this movie was last night. And so I kind of didn't know what to expect from the movie, but I mean, I thought it was a pretty cool movie. Here's a synopsis, and then we'll kind of get into the details. So, God's Not Dead: A Light in Darkness is a 2018 American Christian drama film written and directed by Michael Mason. It's the third installment of the God's Not Dead series, following the 2014 film God's Not Dead, and then the 2016 sequel, which that's the one I missed. I haven't seen the second one. It stars David White and John Corbett, Shane Harper, Benjamin Onyango, and the list goes on and on. But basically, this movie is about I want to say, I feel like they were, I don't know if they were like Baptist, Southern Baptist, but anyway, they were a church. It seemed like they probably were like more along the lines of like Southern Baptist congregation, which the name of the church was St. James Church. And St. James is a historic church that was founded, and then a college bought the land around the church.
Right.
And so, for years it seemed like,
college.
right, a state college. So for years it seems like they coexisted, where the college kind of built around this church.
Right.
like honestly Yale, kind of like think about it that way, like this huge, institution building around the college, taking up more land, and eventually they come into a situation where Reverend Dave, who is the main character in this movie, starts to go through some really interesting issues, where it seems like the relationship between the school and the college start to separate. And I don't know if you all caught it. It wasn't really clear, but the beginning of the movie actually was taken from an actual real storyline. So I think about maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, there were pastors, Southern Baptist pastors in the state of Texas, who were sued because of what they were preaching about Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And so they were sued, and they actually won the case because it was an infringement upon their First Amendment. I think it's the First Amendment, right? And so the pastors won that, and so that's kind of like the storyline that they bring into the movie in the beginning of the movie, where we see Reverend Dave in jail.
Right, because that's how they started the movie. They were saying for what he was saying or what he was preaching. But I was very confused because they never got back to that.
Right. I think they were just trying to find some way of bringing relevance in, like from headlines and stuff like that, into the movie, because they didn't really talk about it like that. But that's what they were trying to do. They were basically trying to raise that social issue that pastors are are being censored in a way, and some pastors are being censored by other non-faith institutions based on what they believe. And so this was also interesting too. Let me just put a pin right here. I don't know what that says about Christians, but every movie we've seen so far, somebody's been to jail. Maybe with the exception of Mr. Church. But Mr. Church wasn't really a Christian movie. But there's been a jail scene.
A Case for Christ, who went to jail?
The guy, remember he wrote the article about the black guy who was wrongfully convicted and went to jail.
Someone was in jail.
Right, every single movie, even the Carlton Pearson movie, right? It starts out with the uncle being in jail. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe that goes back. I mean, and when we look at the New Testament, right? There's a lot of people in jail there too, right? Paul is in jail, and so maybe I was started to think as a church, maybe we should start a bailout fund.
Sir.
I'm just saying, if
who are we bailing out?
The saints, they in jail.
But what if they need to be in jail?
I mean, then they need to be in jail. But if they're like Reverend Dave, then we got to get them out.
So how do we decide who comes out and who don't?
The Holy Spirit will speak to us.
All right, sir. Can we get back to this movie? So, what part of the movie you want to talk about?
Y'all can already tell Lady Bland and the spirit that she got. She didn't really care for the movie. We didn't really talk about it, but I can already tell this wasn't your favorite movie.
I went to sleep again.
I told y'all she doesn't like Christian movies.
I'm not the only one though. Everyone went to sleep. Kyra went to sleep.
Charlinda
went to sleep.
You can't listen to Charlinda because she didn't really watch it.
She said she was gonna watch it this week, and I have faith in her. So. They said they went to sleep. Kyra said straight to bed.
Y'all went to sleep on this movie?
I went to sleep like 5 times. I tried to watch it Wednesday, and I woke up, had to rewind, went back to sleep 5 minutes later, rewound. Like, it wasn't good.
Oh, my God. I can't believe y'all going to sleep on. Now, if this was Power, if this was anything else, if this was, what do you watch?
Gilmore Girls.
Exactly. Sleep. So the movie starts talking about, this guy, Reverend Dave. He gets out of jail from being harassed really about what he was preaching about Jesus. And let me say this too. We're going to come back, like circle around back to this. But there was some, if y'all were awake, there were some sayings in the movie that I thought were 100% preachable. Like there were some things that were said that I was like, if he had the Holy Ghost, we'd be in revival right now.
Like what?
So like, for instance, when he comes out of jail, right, the first time he goes to jail, because he was in jail twice.
Right.
The first time he comes out of jail for preaching, and they're asking him about the truth, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, do you believe in Jesus or whatever? And they said, we want the truth. And he says the truth is a person, and his name is Jesus. That'll preach. The truth is a person, and his name is Jesus.
Right, put your thing back
He
on.
was
Let me preach
he
that
was
for
2
them.
days away from being apostolic.
All right, let me preach
No,
that.
I tried to give you your opportunity earlier. That's
gotta
it.
move for
That's
it.
it.
Come on.
You've been sat down.
Bless you.
All right. And so yeah. So I thought that there were like some really cool like taglines in this
Quavo fell
movie.
asleep. See?
I cannot believe y'all. I cannot. Lord, please work on this church.
All right, can we talk about why the one person of color had to be killed within 6 minutes and 45 seconds of the movie? I was awake then and I timed it.
I will say this.
And he was the best person in the movie.
I was really, really, really frustrated about that. So there's not a lot of diversity in this movie.
There's none.
There's a couple. There's like that really weird little young kid who's like
right, with
getting
the
his
dreads.
he was getting his scalp greased
Okay.
by
You're right.
by Susie, and
You're
I
right.
didn't really understand what was happening in that whole scene, but he was there, and there were some random people here or there, but so what we see is that Reverend Dave has this friend who is assisting him in ministry, whose name is Jude, and Jude comes
Jude.
Pastor Jude, who comes from a place in Africa,
Yeah.
and so we see that Jude and Dave are like Paul and Silas, right? Dave goes to jail. Jude comes and bails him out, which I told you the church should have a bailout fund. And so they show them now in church, and then Pastor Dave or Reverend Dave, whatever you want to call him, he announces that this guy, the African guy, the only main African American lead in this movie,
Right.
is going to be appointed as co-pastor of the St. James Church. So at first I was like, okay, cool. Like this will be cool. Let me see how this goes. And then like 20 seconds later, he dies in the fire.
He died. And drastically. Like, he couldn't, really? All of that?
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
maybe,
he threw a bottle, it hit the pipe burst, it got on fire, and he dragged that man up the steps.
now
really?
I will say this. Shout out to Reverend Dave, because he dragged a grown man from the basement up the stairs, through the sanctuary, out the front doors of the church.
He had to drag him like that, though.
I mean, what was he going to do? I mean, he did the
Like
best
that,
that he
though?
could. That was his boy.
But he had to drag him like that. I've been watching Station 19, though, y'all, so in my mind, I'm like, he could have done that differently. Like, really? You don't think so?
No.
No.
I think he did the best that he could.
I don't know. I thought that it was very dramatic and drastic. And those 6 minutes were the best 6 minutes of the movie. After that, it was done for.
So, Lady Bland,
Overseer Bland.
how would you have written the story differently? What would
I
have
would have
made
written
this?
a story. There was no storyline.
The storyline was about a pastor who is pastoring a church, who now has to not only fight for his church, but he also has to fight one of his friends, because what we find out later in the movie is that the board of the president for the board of directors for the state school is his friend.
Right. Who didn't want to go against him at first. I thought that was cool of the friend. But then, push come to shove. It's, you want your job or you going to stick with your friend? So he took his job over his friend. So I get all of that. I just think that this could have been a 30-minute movie.
I think that there were some really powerful things that happened. So one of the things that I thought was powerful is that I like the fact that there was, now I like this movie a lot better than the movie that we watched last week, Never Heard.
Okay.
I thought that this movie actually had a storyline. I thought this movie actually had characters that developed throughout the movie. So you have Reverend Dave, who's going through his own journey, learning how to forgive. Then you have his brother, who is going through a journey of finding God again after church. And I thought that this was really a relevant movie for where we are right now, because a lot of people in this movie experience like what has become like a phenomenon term, which is church hurt, right? There are so many people that have so many different layers of church hurt, which begins to skew not just how they see the church, but how they see God, right? Which is how the problem started in the first place, because we find this kid who has been raised in church, who we find out later his mother was abused by her husband. She decides to divorce him, and the church begins to kind of like bully her. And so that kind of is his place of tension with the church. And that place of hurt makes him not just walk away from church, but walk away from God, to the point where he sees himself as an atheist. And I thought that was very realistic, because I don't know about you all, but a lot of people that I talk to who don't believe in God anymore, it's because at some point they've been mishandled, whether rightfully so or not, by the church. And I thought that was a relevant way of having that conversation, but also saying that church hurt does not mean that you've been hurt by God.
Right. And I thought that was good. I wish that they had brought that story to light a little better and a little clearer, seeming that his issue was with Reverend, what's his name? What's the character name?
Dave.
Reverend Dave.
She did not watch this movie.
I did.
She just came up here to debate. She did not watch.
I
she
did.
Didn't. Her and
I'm about to
Charlinda
prove it.
didn't watch.
Don't you
didn't
put me
see
in the same
nothing
boat with Charlinda
in this movie.
No, but what I was going to say is with Reverend Dave, right? Okay. Reverend Dave and the little boy, the boy at the college, going through church hurt and now experiencing it again with Reverend Dave. And yes, in reality, that can happen. But if the girl didn't call him out and like, you doing this, he went through this, so why you doing that? I think that as the church, we shouldn't need someone's background story in order to be nice to them and in order to show them Christ. And I felt like in the movie, it showed that Pastor Dave was only nice and only wanted to redeem the young man, forgive the young man, because the girl came and said, oh, blah, blah, blah.
But I don't think that wasn't. See, I know you didn't watch this movie.
That's what happened.
No, it's not what happened.
She knocked on his door.
So wait. So let's deal with this first. Say Reverend Dave is about it.
I don't, Charlinda.
So Reverend Dave, one, I respect Reverend Dave because he is a man of God, but he also got hands. Because when he found out that kid was the one who threw the brick through the window,
overseer,
he went up to him.
Overseer, that's how we deal with things.
I'm just saying. Listen, wait.
Overseer.
Let me finish this. See. Sometimes in movies, they make movies one dimensional, where this character is just like, oh, okay. I mean, he's just anointed all the time. But the reality is, he lost his church, his best friend, and his reputation overnight. And even though he should not have handled that situation that way, I appreciate the fact that in our humanity, sometimes we do things that we have no business doing. And it also showed that Reverend Dave had hands.
All right, so
And
I
wanted the saints to be able to see that, yes, sometimes we don't always get it right, but that pastors are people too. And I think that that's what the movie was trying to show, that even though he was a pastor, it didn't make him exempt from being a person, because it sometimes other people can go through life and they have the space to grieve, the space to be hurt, the space to even be mad, and sometimes even be mad at God. And then because you are a person of faith, you don't even have to be a pastor, but sometimes because you say you're a Christian or a person of faith, it means that like other people look at you through a lens like everything should be perfect. And I did appreciate the fact that they kept the reality of the movie, that in that situation, anybody could have reacted that way, like Pastor Dave did, maybe even worse, right? It doesn't justify it, but it does show that people are human. He was going through his own evolution, learning how to forgive. But to your point, when God began to deal with him, he had grabbed the Bible from Jude and was already out his way to the house to go to the prison, and the girl knocked on the door at the same time. And so, because you were asleep, I know. And so
y'all, is that what really
so
happened?
back up off Pastor Jude. He felt in his heart that he needed to go and get it right. We didn't know what he was going to do, but it shows him grabbing the Bible, and he's getting ready to go out the door, and she starts knocking on the door to basically check him, to say, you were wrong, you're a man of God, which he is, you should have handled that better, and the same grace you preach about, you should extend to him. But he was already there. That's why he was like, come with me.
Okay. So I didn't see that part. I saw him chilling in the house eating pizza. So if he was already on his way, then okay. I don't know. Let's see if you was right, because you be mixing up
Back up.
stuff.
Listen, back up off Reverend Dave. That's my boy. That's my boy. Back up
All
off
right,
of him.
let's see what they're saying.
Right. Reverend Kingwood said we don't get it right in real time all the time, and that's so true. I mean, for all of us, right? The Bible says that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That as believers, we strive to do the best that we can, but we still experience grief, anxiety, frustration, pain, and sometimes we do the wrong things. And so I did appreciate the fact that there was some dynamics to his character.
Tanya said he's Pentecostal. He laid hands. You know what? I'm gonna pray for y'all.
He did. Now, listen. Just want to let y'all know. Y'all want to get it twisted? We'll lay hands on you. The Bible says, "Lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover."
Bless you.
Okay.
All right. Devonna said that's what happened. All right. So I'm gonna believe that's what happened. I must have nodded on that part. All right. I guess so.
Yeah. So I told y'all she didn't watch this movie. That's why she didn't like it.
I did watch it, but
she didn't.
it
For
was too much. An hour and 46 minutes was not needed.
it's because let me tell you why she didn't like it. There wasn't a clear romantic storyline, which she likes.
There was.
There wasn't clear because we don't even know if he made her first lady or not. It was very ambiguous.
I guess that's the number 4.
So right. So she didn't. Lady Bland didn't like it because she likes romantics. She likes comedies. There was no comedy, and she likes Christmas. There was no Christmas, and so most of these movies, Lady Bland, are not going to have Christmas, and most Christian movies probably won't have a strong romantic storyline.
Well,
So
when I pick the movie, everyone gonna like it.
okay. So week after, we've already picked a movie for next week, but week after next, you pick a movie, and let's see. I'm gonna tear your movie to shreds. Let me see what movie you pick. I can't wait.
So what else happened? I did like the part with his brother, and I like that they didn't overdo his forgiveness story, right? So I think sometimes in these Christian movies they'll kind of overdo it, and I thought that they did it very subtly. They brought him in. He did little things to show that he wanted to have a relationship with his brother. They unveiled what kind of happened piece by piece. Even the scene with them working together to get the tree down was kind of cool. I thought I was going to be mad at the end because I'm like, okay, well, what happened to the brother? So when he showed the brother calling, I thought that was kind of the brother saying, okay, I hear you, I see you, let's continue to work on this, even though I left you and didn't want to be a lawyer no more. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end, you see him open up his Bible again. That his parents. I don't know if you were awake for that part,
saw
but
that.
okay. And so, I mean, the storyline between him and his brother was cool. It was cool to see his brother's evolution. There were a lot of ends that they didn't really kind of like tie up for us, which maybe is kind of like leading into what's going to happen next. Another thing that I really was just personally challenged with is when we look at Reverend Dave, and I thought that Reverend Dave was like. I felt as though Reverend Dave was a good character because I feel as though whether you are a pastor or not, everyone could see themselves in Reverend Dave, right? There are kind of moments where you're like, yeah, I feel him. I might do the same thing. But one place where I kind of struggled with is I don't know how I would have. Now, I know that I believe in grace. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in redemption. But I don't know if I feel that how they handled the situation with the young boy, if that was realistic. Granted, it was an accident. The boy didn't.
Right, it was truly an accident.
He threw the brick through the window. He didn't know that he was going to bust a gas line. I mean, there was no way that he could know that Jude was going to pull the cord, create a spark, and blow up the church. But he still did it, which caused the death. And that is something that I felt as though was really interesting. The fact that, we like jumped to, y'all just hear me out, and I'm human, and I want to hear what y'all say in the comments. But sometimes as Christians, I think that we see grace as being without penalty. And so in the movie, how they depict grace is that he's forgiven, he gives them Jude's Bible, they drop all the charges, and he comes out of jail. first of all, if he looked like me, I don't care what charges they drop, he'd probably still be doing 25 to life. That was one. Two, I felt as though, what are we saying about grace? Because I believe that God gives us grace, but it is still attached to penalty. And I personally felt like, yeah, we should forgive him, but he should still probably do some time, because, he made some decisions that really changed everyone's life forever. And what do y'all feel about that? If you all were in that situation, would you want him to come out of jail? And we're talking about the kid that in essence blew up the church. Would you all like him to just come out of jail without doing any time, or would you like to see him be held accountable justice wise at all? Because I think that is an unfair depiction, because even as God gives us grace, the wages of sin is still death. And and so that was my challenge in this is that what are we really saying about how we feel about grace, and is that 100% congruent with Scripture and theology? So I know we have enough. What do you say about that?
Let's see what the saints say. You're not gonna like my answer.
So Tanya said it was vandalism, not murder. So yes, he vandalized the church, but him throwing the brick through the window caused the gas line to break. Had he not done that, it wouldn't have happened. It's kind of like which somebody could be held accountable if you're chasing somebody and they run into the street and get hit by a car. You could be accountable for that, even though you didn't hit them by the car, because your actions led to that. I mean, the charge will be different, but you can still be charged. And so, so I don't know how y'all feel about that. Elder Green said he would not have come out. Jerome said, just said that to my wife. If he looked like us, he would have been under the jail. Yeah. Charlinda said, no, he needs to do time. Elder Smith said the charges in real life probably would have been dropped to manslaughter. Right. So I think the sentence being reduced would have made sense. But him just like coming out of jail, like just like chilling, like, hey, like what's up? Like, like that's not.
I also think that it's a theme in Christian movies, and I think a lot of times they do like what you said. They portray as grace meaning no accountability. Even thinking, I don't know how many of you guys saw, I think it's called The Question of Faith, that was on Lifetime, which was a really good movie I liked. But the same thing happened there. The girl killed the little boy, and she was in jail. The father felt bad after a while and got her out of jail, and she did no jail time. She hit him at the stop sign and killed him. So I think that that's just a theme, but I think that that's a great point, because just because grace is afforded to someone doesn't mean that they're not to be held accountable. And I think a lot of times we don't preach that. We preach that God's grace is going to cover you, God's grace is going to make things fine, which yes, it does, but that God's grace doesn't take away the penalty of what you've done. So I think that's just a different way that we need to present grace and show grace within the church and outside the church.
Because I think one of the reasons why I was challenged by this is because non-believers often feel like just because we are believers that we should just get over anything. And I think that as believers, it's okay to struggle and still say I feel as though something should be done. And so in that situation, I'm trying to put myself in that situation. I wouldn't want to see the young man lose his entire life, but I also wouldn't want him to just walk away feeling as though the life that was lost had no value.
Right.
Right. And so that part for me, I'm gonna be honest, that part for me for the entire movie was the most challenging part, because I saw it through a couple different lenses. One, I saw it through the lens of the theology of grace and asking myself, is this a fair depiction of grace? Two, I saw it through a social justice lens, as we see so many of our minority Black and brown brothers incarcerated every single day for crimes that non-black and brown people are not even arrested for.
Right.
So I saw it through that way. I also like asked the question like, what value do we place on life? Because it seems like more and more people don't value other people's lives as much as they used to. Like it seems like it's so
That's true.
easy. Like when we see like things about mass murders and just senseless things and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, it just seems like the value of other lives, especially when it is racially charged sometimes, can just be seen as like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did struggle with that. I mean, I don't know if that's the picture that they were trying to paint. I think overall it was a great movie, but for me, that was an issue, especially because there was a social justice theme throughout
Right.
this movie
Right.
because
Right.
the brother was a social justice lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and then the
The
youth
intern.
pastor
Mm-hmm.
was also, studying social
Social
justice.
justice.
So
Right.
I felt as though, but also too, you have to ask who wrote this and whose justice.
That's good.
So I mean, I ain't trying to start a war on here tonight, but I'm just saying, for me, that's where I was.
But I also think that it's something that the movie did as kind of putting these large themes up and then kind of glossing over it. So even looking at the different people throughout the movie who experienced church hurt and dealing with that, I felt that they kind of said, okay, now we're good. So for me, I looked at it through a psychological lens, and these people, like the boy, he was angry. He was dealing with anger, which is why he threw the thing. His anger came from church hurt, but just because a pastor now tells you you don't have to do time, are you now over that church hurt? Do you now know how to deal with your anger better? And I think a lot of times, even outside of this movie, we think that we just get over things, right? And sometimes through prayer and stuff, we can, we preach about the sea of forgetfulness, to throw your things there. But then there's a lot of things, especially for like his brother who felt hurt and felt like he wasn't accepted by his family. His brother now being on TV or doing commercials or interviews, whatever, it doesn't make you get over that. You need to be able to process through that and get some clarity in order to.
And I totally agree. I think what they were trying to show, though, is how dangerous unaddressed hurt is. Because with a lot of these people, they were hurt, and the way in which they saw their narrative perhaps maybe wasn't the way it actually was.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that for some of them, like for the kid who threw the brick through the window, that was a little bit more concrete. But especially in the storyline between Reverend Dave and his brother, they had different perspectives on one situation.
Right.
And it's how they saw that situation that caused hurt in their lives, but also division in their family.
Right.
And you could see that they were on different pages because as they would argue and talk about their perspective on the same situation was different. And I think that as they were able to talk about that, they were also able to realize and recognize maybe that's the way I saw it, but maybe that necessarily wasn't the way it was. Or maybe there was something more. And if we had talked about this earlier, we would have been able to resolve some of this earlier. And so I think, sometimes people hold a contempt against the church that they never even tried to explore. And I think that was one
good.
of the large messages of this movie that it was trying to just tell, not just the body of Christ, but just people that if you have experienced hurt, especially church hurt, don't just leave it at somebody did something to me, that's it, but try to explore it because maybe there was something else to it.
Right.
Have a conversation about it so that you can move past it because all these people were really stopped
Right.
at a place in their life that they could not see it until trauma happened or until chaos happened, that they really had not moved beyond.
Right.
And so, and because if that young man had moved beyond that place, he wouldn't have gone to a place where he would have threw the brick through the window. But
Right.
he
It
was
was
stuck there,
unaddressed. Right.
even with the pastor and his brother, if they had have been able to resolve that, the brother might have, who knows, the brother might have become a pastor because
Right.
he was the older sibling.
Right. Or at least a
And
Christian.
so, right.
You know.
Or a member of the church, so that was the case. So let's also talk about the resolve. So at the end of the movie, the whole movie is about, the pastor fighting for the church. And there's another black in the movie too. There the other pastor of the larger church that he's
Okay.
you didn't see that part either.
I,
All right. But who gets
Bless
him
you.
together, by the way. Now, this was when I was like, all right, finally we're gonna keep it real because he's been since Reverend Dave's church burns down, right? We're talking about God's Not Dead, 3. When Reverend Dave's church burns down, he starts to visit another, looks like Baptist church in the city, who is pastored by an older black pastor who opens up his doors to him and his congregation to say, listen, whatever you need, we're here for you. And so while Reverend Dave is going through his revelation, and he's kind of really going through his thing, he goes to talk to this pastor, and he kind of like is bringing him like this woe is me, like nobody else knows what I'm going through, and he like checked him real quick, like,
Yeah.
brother, I think that was one of my favorite lines in the movie.
What did he say?
He said, with all the bricks that have been thrown through my windows, I could build you a church.
And I heard that line.
That was a very powerful and profound
That
thing to
was.
say, like, wait a minute, we all got issues, we all
Right.
got stuff, you're not the only one. And sometimes in our life we need somebody to like check us and be like, you ain't the only one, like basically, get up, get yourself together. And that was a very short brief moment, but I think that was like a turning point in the movie.
You're right. Right, Tanya. He was the guy from Greenleaf. Thank you for reminding me. I think that was the other reason I couldn't get with the movie, because I kept seeing him as the guy on Greenleaf, the uncle that raped all those girls, and I couldn't get with it. That was
Yeah. Nancy said the superficial movie provokes deep theological thought. Yeah, there was a lot to think about in this movie that I really kind of was up last night, kind of thinking about some of these things and what it really means.
right. Rodney said church is also very hard to deal with. It's not easy to get over when you are hurt so deeply. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think, to oversee your point, it's important for us to really address those things, because we get hurt and then we leave, right? And then we go somewhere else carrying that hurt without being healed. And now we are continuing to be hurt and maybe hurting other people as well before we get our healing. So,
And the reality too is when we talk about the issue of and I'm starting to not even really I I understand that people are hurt in church, but just the term kind of challenges me sometimes.
church
But
hurt.
I think that the reality is for people who have been hurt in church or by church people, or people who also go to a church, sometimes that keeps them from coming back to church, and when I talk to a lot of young adults in my age range, and I talk about church, people have a variety of reactions. Some people are like, oh, okay, I love church, or, and some people are like, man, I'm not, just a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of
Right.
this, a bunch of that.
Things
And
they say.
and that could be hard sometimes.
Right. I love what Elder, excuse me, I love what Elder Green said. She said, before we came into the church, we didn't allow people to just hurt us. We dealt with it in them. I don't know about the in them piece, but we dealt with it, right? So why, when we become Christian, we start going to church, we no longer deal with hurt when people hurt us? I think that's a good point.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, I thought it was a movie that it might not have been a great, cinematic depiction, but I thought it was a movie that at least posed some questions that challenged people to be able to answer. And at the end of the day, I did like I thought the scene, although very dramatic and very unrealistic, one of like the culmination scenes where they're outside of the church
Keep digging a hole.
picketing, and
before that.
no, at the very end, and you have the people that are for the church on one side, the people that are
okay.
against the church on one side,
the light.
and then they all show up together, and he kind of like, this was kind of, as I thought about it, I was like, okay, cool, he gonna build his church, but I didn't. I felt like I wanted, again, like I felt like I wanted him to fight for the church and say we're still not moving. When he was like, y'all can have the land, we're gonna move, and I get it, because there's two sides to this equation, right? On one side, this is causing a huge division, not just in our community, but also within our church. And we've already lost people because of this. And so I think from that standpoint, the heart of a pastor just says, I don't want anybody else to get hurt. I don't want any more drama over this. We'll just pick up and move, right? Because church is not the building, right?
Right.
But there was a part of me that kind of like wanted to say like, no, we ain't going nowhere.
So you would have rebuilt after
I
all
don't,
that damage and all that.
I don't know what I would have done. You know, I felt like the church was there. They decided to build a university around the church, and then they made the church like the core of all their problems, and then pushed the church out the way. You know, and I felt like part of me, and maybe this is just, I don't know, maybe this is just me as a person, but I felt like part of me, when I heard him say that they were going to build a church somewhere else, part of me kind of was like, I don't I don't know. But I mean, but I do see the other side of the equation, that there was so much that was lost, and it was an opportunity for reconciliation. And sometimes, here is one thing that I think I grew watching this movie, is one of the messages that it taught me, and I don't know what this movie taught you, if it taught you anything, but one of the messages that it taught me from watching this movie is that sometimes you have to pick your battles.
Right.
Sometimes you have to pick your battles. And he just decided that, it's better to reconcile than to fight. And that is something that I think so many of us should learn. It's better to reconcile than to fight. There's a quote in the movie that I wrote down that I think was like setting us up for this, and I don't know if y'all missed it. But the intern said this at one point in the movie. He says, grace. Oh, wait. He says this about grace. He says, justice without grace as our goal is just fighting.
Justice without grace as our goal is just fighting.
So I mean, he was talking about in terms of reconciliation. When grace is not the goal, then you'll fight over anything, because in a fight, every party has a valid reason to fight,
Right.
right?
To
And
them.
so to them. And so when grace is not the end result, you will fight over anything, fight to the death, fight, and won't care who gets hurt. But when grace is the goal, then sometimes grace steps in and say, let's stop fighting. It's not worth it anymore. Yes, they might have been wrong. Yes, they might have done that. But what do you want to see happen at the end of this? Do you want to say you won, or do you want to be together?
Right.
And that like stuck to me and kind of convicted me in a way, because I don't know that in all of my fighting, although some of it has been just, I don't think I've always fought with grace as the goal. I've fought with victory as the goal, because most of us, that's it, right? We fight to win. And most of us are not fighting for grace. And I think him moving on was kind of a depiction of that, right? That, okay, you know what, this fight, although I could probably stay here, if grace is the goal, then how do I find a way to reconcile?
Okay. Makes sense.
And so, we could stop right here for a couple seconds and just like that. If you can just get that relationally, every relationship that you have will grow to the next level, right? If you just think about that with your spouse or with whoever you're in a relationship with, right? If you're fighting with victory as a goal, then y'all always going to be fighting each other, right?
True.
But if you fight with grace as the goal, to say, listen, at the end of this, I don't care if I win. I just want to make sure that we're together.
That's good. That
That
makes sense.
changes
Right.
that
Changes
changes
how
the
you fight.
situation.
It changes
Right.
how you fight. Absolutely.
And so and also changes when you stop fighting. Right? Because right, so I just thought that was a very powerful statement, that was another powerful statement. Then we're going to end is the soon to be first lady. she was talking to him and he was talking about giving up and not knowing what to do. And she said, if you fight this, God will handle the details. I told you
was good.
it was a lot of shouting points in there. I should have had my band queued up so we could have danced right there. If watch this, if you fight this, God will handle the details.
That's good.
And so I thought that was like a really cool thing as well. I'm trying to see what else I have. Oh, here was the last one. The first lady actually had some oil.
All right, come on, notes.
She said another quote that she said later on in the movie is she was talking about watching the guy chisel and make sculptures out
the
of
rocks.
rock. And she said it's okay to be broken. It just means God is still working on you.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm preaching that illustration when we get back.
She also said, look at what came out of what seemed like nothing.
Right.
I thought that was good, too.
She should have probably been the pastor of the church.
So, she could be. Maybe she's going to be the co-pastor.
Maybe God's not there for
in number 4.
Well, we'll see.
All right. What's y'all ratings?
So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being loved it, 1 being hated it, how would you rate this movie 1 to 5? Go right now in the comment section. 5 being loved it, 1 being hated it. What do you think about this movie? Lady Bland, what is your rating for God's Not Dead 3, Light in Darkness?
1.3297.
God's going to get you.
It's all
He's
right.
not pleased.
It's all right. He's not dead, so that's all
He's
right.
not dead, and he ain't pleased either.
What's your rating?
I thought it was a 3.5.
Okay.
I thought it was a 3.5. I thought it was a solid movie. It's a Christian movie, and so we have to kind of temper our perspective in terms of, what we're going to get. But I thought it was like a 3.5. What are people saying in there?
A 0.5.
For real?
Charlinda, which we still don't know if she really watched it. Tanya said 4.5. Nancy said 5. Devonna said 4. Elder Smith said 4. Naqueva 4. Amy 3.5. Tilia said, God's still working on me. Amen. He working on all of us. -2. I love it, Reverend Joey. I love it. I love it. Tiffany said 3. Kyra 1.
Yeah, so I
guess
mean,
we had a mix.
so it was. I mean, I think it was. There was a lot of messaging in it.
was.
I think the acting probably could have been a little better. What would y'all suggest? What should we watch next? You all put that in the comment section. What should we watch next? Now, we picked the one for this week. Next week, week after that, Lady Bland's gonna pick a movie.
No, we gonna let
because
them pick.
no.
I
You're
picked
my
A Quest.
lady. You're gonna pick a movie.
Sing the rest.
And so week after next, you're gonna give us a movie that we're gonna watch. We're gonna see what kind of movies you like because we want to see what a 5 is to you. I'm really interested. Lady Bland is, for those of you who know her, she's a hard critic, and so I'm really interested to see what a 5, what a 5 is to you.
Okay.
All right, and so
Send me some suggestions.
go in your
Watch
prayer
movies.
closet. We know it. Go in your prayer closet and watch that. All right. So next week, y'all ready for this? Next week we are watching Same Kind of Different as Me. All right. We're going to be watching the movie Same Kind of Different as Me. It actually has a really interesting cast of characters.
Okay.
So Jaimin Hanzu, I never know how to pronounce his name. African guy. He's in the movie. Renee Zellweger is in the movie. There's a couple of other people that's like, okay, I've seen them in some movies before, and so needless to say, they probably have a little bit of a better budget. But it'll be interesting to see Same Kind of Different as Me. The storyline is about a couple who takes in a homeless man and he transforms the way that they see people and see life.
Okay,
And
sounds
so
good.
should be a pretty interesting movie. There's still no Christmas in it, and I don't know.
Bless you. It
in
looks
terms of
good
that.
though. They said they want to see War Room. Y'all pastors against
Y'all,
it. We've talked about it.
I'm just not against it, but every church person in America, for the most part, has seen War Room.
Naqueva said she never saw it.
Really? We have to see. I don't know if is War Room on Netflix.
We could see.
We'll check it out. We'll check it out. If y'all want to see War Room again,
I wish Question of Faith was on Netflix.
We
That's
could
definitely
see
what
it.
I want to see. But it's not on there.
yeah. Oh, right before we go, yesterday, I don't know if you saw it. Yesterday, Pastor John P. Key announced that this Sunday, him and Bishop Hezekiah Walker are going to be doing a music battle online. And I pray that it's better than Teddy Riley and Babyface.
I'm saved. I didn't see that one.
You didn't have to see it to know what happened. It was all over social media. Brother Riley was getting dragged for days in the
did see
media,
that.
and so now they're taking it to church, and John P. Key and Hezekiah are gonna go head to head. I'm interested to see who's going
A
to
lot of people haven't seen War Room.
really maybe. You know what? They probably all of our really sanctified people. They're probably our holiness people who still believe you shouldn't sit in the seat of the scornful or go to the movie theaters.
Sir, finish what you're saying
And
about.
so, no,
They're
I'm
saying Uncle John's gonna win.
I was gonna ask that question. Who do y'all have? I'm really excited about this because you know what? I like both of their music. Now I grew up thinking I was John P. Key.
Really?
I did.
You ain't. No, we're not doing story hour.
I did.
We're not.
I grew up. And my mother was a huge John Key fan, and so I grew up, listening to his music, and he does that little thing with it. Mom, and so I used to I used to always I used to
miss
practice
it. What
that.
he did?
He does like this little mom. It's kind of like Michael had his signature, like that's John Key. And so I feel like I'm kind of partial because there's a little nostalgia that's there. I mean, if you're in church, Hezekiah writes church music. And so, well, he doesn't write church music, but he does sing church music. Let's
He
make
doesn't
that
write
clear.
those songs?
Most of them, no. Most hits are attributed to people like David Frazier, Melvin Crispell, S.T. Bullock. I mean, in his more recent stuff, Jason Claiborne, he has great writers, but he gives you church music. Every single choir in America has sung at least 4 or 5 Hezekiah Walker songs. And so, I think that's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, I want to know what are people saying? Who do y'all think is going to win?
We got a little bit of everybody. Some people are saying John P. Some people are saying Bishop Walker.
It's just like Rain on Us. John Key, Rain on Us.
How'd that go?
Rain on us. Rain on, like Rain on Us made every man in America and maybe almost half the women in America want to be drummers. Listening to all of those Calvin Rogers solos in Rain on Us, like stuff like Rain on Us, Stand. I decided to take a stand. Ivan Powell, no win. I lose some of my friends, but I ran it.
Sir.
Like how? I mean, what's your favorite? What's your favorite John Key song? We're gonna go to Bishop Walker. What's your favorite John Key song? I mean, he has so many. Colorblind. I mean, he just clap your hands if you've been delivered. Oh, clap your hands. Lady Blaine don't know none of this. She grew up Episcopal.
I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. We sung
so
hymns.
they didn't have those songs
What time is it?
where
Sunday
where
at
she
7?
where she grew up.
Taking a walk.
I think it's coming up Sunday at 7.
I'm taking a walk.
I want you all to let me know. And then I mean, this is going to be interesting because Hezekiah Walker, he has songs. He has songs too for days. Like put it down, crackhead. Like Monique
What?
saying that in God of a Second Chance. Like people who like that, put it down, crackhead, is like stuck in my head forever. Forever. I mean, like, how could you not? God of a Second Chance. I mean, it's man. What did it?
They said, "Comfort me, He'll welcome me, Lily in the valley."
Oh,
Jesus
Lily
is real.
in the valley. Jesus is real. Now Jesus is real was my first solo.
Right, Tiffany. I don't know what that is. Sir, we're not doing story time tonight.
I'm just saying. These are songs, which is why I think it would be hard for me to want to see Hezekiah win, even though I think he has amazing music, because a lot of these things are like nostalgic for me. Like it, when I hear them, it brings
Just
me
take you back
back
to another
to
place.
like a time when I didn't have to pay bills in my mother's house.
Okay.
And it's just
It
thank
was a
God.
good time.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
listen.
Well, bless you.
Clean inside. Won't he make you clean? Do, do, do. I mean, anyway, that he's love fellowship. I'm sure we know what Aaron who Aaron wants to see win.
I
He
don't
is
know. What
he's
you say, twin?
how much we can bear. How much we you know that song? We can
Can
bear.
there?
Okay, she know one of
All
them. She know one
right.
of them.
I know a lot of them. 99 and a half.
99 and a half won't do. Yeah. Lord, I'm running, trying to make 100 because 99.
Thank you, Elder Lloyd. I know.
Now what so we did most of the John stuff. Some of y'all put Hezekiah stuff in there already. What is your favorite Hezekiah Walker song? Like there's so many of them too that this is just gonna be it's gonna be
Lord,
really
we
interesting.
praise you.
Yeah.
Our top fan was on. I didn't know she was
I
on.
was thinking the other day about the joy that came my way. Took away my frown and all
know
the
that
things
one.
that had me. Oh Lord, we pray. Like
I
he
didn't
had
know
he
that.
had everybody thinking that they were like Jamaican for like just 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
And so calling my name, yes.
I like
Yes.
that one.
Yes.
Let me sing that one
The
for y'all.
Figueroas were on there.
I'm going to sing that one.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
Jesus is the light. He's the light of darkness, the brightest way out. This is why she sings from her seat at church. This is gonna be really interesting. This is gonna be really interesting. I am excited to see how this
I
goes.
can't take twin. He said Ricky Dillard.
Ricky Dillard.
I'll
Now
fly away.
here now I saw a battle or there was a conversation about Ricky not you got me talking about Ricky Dillard now. There was a conversation last night. Bishop Younger went on Facebook Live and he asked a really good question that really made me think. He was kind of dissecting the battle between Hezekiah and John, and he asked a question last night. He said, who had the best band and who has the better singers?
So not just about the lyrics.
Right. I mean, because if you got to look at it all, right? Like in terms of like who is the greatest among you, right? Like
Jesus.
So yes, but then after that, like who's the greatest representative, right? So I mean, I don't know what y'all would say. I was really like I feel like band wise. Now there's nothing like here's why I'm torn because Hezekiah introduced the world to Brooklyn music, which Brooklyn is its own category of gospel music.
Absolutely.
You have like contemporary, traditional, quartet, then Brooklyn. It's its own sound, it's its own genre. It's just Brooklyn. Like when you say Brooklyn, you already know. And so Hezekiah introduced the world to that like Brooklyn sound. It's it's like it's gritty. There's a bounce there. It's churchy, and especially in the early '90s, it wasn't a lot of production. It was mostly organ, bass, and drums, and they're straight killing 3-piece. Like John had a band. Like John was killing like in the early '80s with a horn section. Like he was bringing in other sounds and jazz melodies and things like that. So I don't know who has the better band? Who has the better band? I mean,
They said John had the best band and better singers.
now John, I think I listen.
Twin said LFT best band.
Yes, but y'all just know he is an LFT member,
Right,
which
right.
he's supposed to say that, or else if he don't say that, he'll be a Revival Center member.
Somebody gonna be screenshotting.
And so who has the best? Now I think John has the best band. Singers wise, I don't know. It's hard now because here's the other thing too. I think it's kind of harder to judge singers because John leads most of his stuff. I mean, he's the primary lead. Hezekiah is like he doesn't really lead all of his stuff, and so he had a lot more features, like Curvy Brown. Like Curvy Brown to this day will still tear your church up. Like 5-button, 18-piece suit and all, he will still, Bishop Curvy Brown will destroy a church in like 2.2. Like a lot of people who might not have known the Figueroas, this is before Anasia was on the road with Kurt, and this is before Timothy was on the road with Kurt Carr. They were singing leads on Bishop Walker's stuff. I mean, the first time I heard Timony was on a Bishop Walker CD, and it just was, I mean, people like DJ Roger. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what y'all saying about it. All I know is it's going to be a very interesting thing. Ariel said John, hands down, is the ultimate GOAT. John was able to be versatile. Teresa said lights out heads. I think she's saying John's going to win that. Aaron said we dance at 100. Yeah, everything that they do is really, really quick.
And really late.
Tamisha said, did Bishop has confirmed his attendance on Sunday? Well, if he didn't confirm his attendance, he definitely got to show up now. He definitely got to show up now.
He don't got to show up to the fight.
No. This would be like this would be like Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, and Muhammad Ali stays home. But your name is no. You have to understand. He's not even just fighting for himself. Like he's fighting for the whole borough of Brooklyn. He got to show up. He got to show up.
Oh my
God. The record. Oh man, listen.
I can't even take y'all.
John, Charlene said John has features on the majority of his songs. Not back in the day. Like back in the day, John did a lot of singing, although he did, but John had singers singing with him. Like Isaac Curry started out with John. And people like Miranda and things like, I mean, John had singers. So I don't know. I mean, y'all tune in on Sunday. Maybe next week we'll talk about the battle. And, all I'm going to say is this. Somebody text John, somebody text Hezekiah and tell them to hire some tech teams because I don't want to be disappointed. Like, I don't want to be looking at a screen, hearing about, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? So, Teron, I'm going to need you to go to Brooklyn on Sunday and make sure that we could hear what's going on, because I'm excited. Like this is like Clark Sisters Part 2.
Okay, that's how excited you are.
Yeah, I might be more excited for this than I was for Clark Sisters.
All right.
Just because I want to see what's going to happen. I want to see what songs they're going to choose, because that also makes a difference too. I want to see what songs they're going to choose to go at this, because they both have such an extensive catalog that. I don't know. We'll see.
They're gonna use Zoom. I can't take y'all.
Oh man. So all right. Listen. So we're over our time, but I just wanted to put that out there, put y'all on notice, because some of the Saints don't know, and so I don't want them waking up Monday and like miss the battle.
They could watch it
and
again.
so no, this is something that
you gotta see in the moment.
What you don't understand is, the real battle is not what's happening on the screen. The real battle is what's happening in the comments.
All right, sir.
That is not the same restreaming. You got to watch it live. And so,
Twin said PCJC will have a fit if we don't win.
listen. I am. I'm excited about that.
Teresa said John Key could do a hymn and win.
All right, we gotta go. Listen,
right. So
next week we are going to be watching Same Kind of Different as Me. And stay right here. Don't go anywhere. We're getting ready to show a trailer for next week's movie. I want y'all to go on Netflix, check out the movie. We'll be back here, same place, same time next weekend. Watch us this Sunday. God has given me a message that I pray is right now for the body of Christ. And so I want you all to 11:30 join us here so that we can stream together. And I want y'all to comment. I'm grateful that so many of our members comment, but there's still a lot of members who like watch in silence. And so I want y'all to comment, let us know what you think about the message, interact with the people, talk back to the preacher, because what I'm finding too is that Facebook's algorithm, they only show it based on the amount of comments and likes. Okay. So the more we comment, the more we like, the more we can expose this message to other people. And so I want y'all to do that. Lady Blaine, it's been good hanging out with you.
Just one, Rodney, Sunday at 11:30. He wanted to know what time service he didn't want to miss. So
yes.
Sunday, 11:30, right here. Ladies, we're on Zoom tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the tea. We'll be talking about mental health and self-care. So meet me on there tomorrow at 5 p.m. And I guess that's all. Y'all have a great weekend. Watch the trailer. And that's it.
Yeah, you just killed my wrap up. We're gonna have to work on that. We're gonna have to work on that. I wrapped it up. All right, we're going, y'all. Peace, y'all. Watch the trailer.
Love y'all.
I had another dream last night.
Was it a good one, or was it about me?
It was about a poor wise man who changes the city. And I saw his face.
Man, am I glad you guys showed up.
Debbie, I got a sales call at 6:30. I got to drop off contracts north of town.
No, you don't.
Any infectious diseases floating around this place I should know about?
Martin told me about your friend. If you don't tell Debbie, I will.
We've been married 19 years. We don't share the same life. We don't share anything.
You can leave. You choose.
We have to talk to him. That's a man from my dream. What's your name?
You don't need to know my name.
Well, I'd like to know your name.
Tell your woman to stop bothering me.
You'd be doing me a big favor to just be nicer.
You want to be my friend?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm gonna have to think about that.
Where you from?
After I died, the man put me up in a little shack. He didn't tell me that I could earn some money and maybe even some respect.
You're befriending some homeless man.
You lost your mind. They're looking for handouts instead of using their hands for work.
And figure out why he'd want to know me. Done some bad things.
You're not a bad man, and I'm glad we're friends. Very sexy what you did today.
Hanging out with a homeless guy.
How was it?
Actually, it was kind of amazing.
Some things you need to know about Miss Debbie. She's the only person to love you enough not to give up.
I love you, Ronnie Ray.
Whether we is rich or poor, we's all homeless. Just working our way back home.
Denver changed everything.
Our lives together would never be this beautiful.
I, along with most of the other members, have a problem with you bringing your friend around.
You can tell him that yourself. He's standing right there.